I took the job, nobody in the global development team at Renault had imagined that we could as develop as fast the global sourcing and as fast global engineering. Unless you have Maruti as a client, you're not going to be a volume maker in India. Hopefully, the manufacturing and sourcing base in India is going to be strong enough to take a lead on the fuel cell and all the charging electrolyzers, and it could be an opportunity also of cooperation.
Sylvain, you've been associated with India, I think, since 2004, 2005. Uh, from your assignment with Nissan in Japan, you came to India to head Renault, first as the Renault Mahindra joint venture head, and then becoming head of Renault in India. Uh, since that time, 2004 to 2005, and you've seen the journey all along, even after you left Renault and you became a consultant, you saw this journey of Indian automotive industry as an outsider, but was sitting in there in India. So tell me, what have been your main impressions about this journey of Indian automotive sector in the last, say, 15 years, and where does it stand today?
Okay, so it's interesting. I would say first, it's for me, it was the most interesting part of my career when 2004 I was appointed head of the Indian project for Renault,
Mhm.
and only few connection had been taken between Renault and Mahindra. Uh, as Renault was a powertrain supplier to Mahindra before that, and suddenly Renault offered to Mahindra to and shared with Mahindra the fact that they were developing a $7,000 vehicle for the Western world and the Eastern world, and that this project could be also taken to India. And that's when Jardin Toubé asked me to lead this Indian project and to take it from square one till production in India. So at the time, market was below one. It was about 1 million passenger cars sold every year. So compared to the 3.2 million today, which is a decent growth of 7% year on year, even though there had been some economical tragedies, 2008, 2009. Then we had the monetization in India. Then we had the pandemic, and over the last 2 years, all over the world. So that's been still a growing market from a tiny player into a top 5 player worldwide, quite far behind China at 25 million vehicles per year, but still in the same range as Germany and Japan and say Korea. So that's been a nice period for me of understanding the Indian mindset, the way we could work with Indian, the way we could develop vehicles for the Indians and not just bringing what we had developed. Logan had been developed for the Eastern world. Of course, the challenges of India is the cost, and the challenge of India is being as good as Maruti, but with nowhere the volume that Maruti is getting from his business, because they manufacture 1.5 million vehicles for India, and
Economies of
they have
scale. Yeah.
economy of scales. They have a great Japanese-based quality, and they are 90% manufacturing and
Local.
sourcing their vehicles. And it's also a period where the the market became a bit richer, I would say, from the Maruti 800s or the former Altos into Swift and sedans and now SUVs. And that's where I understood, and Gérard de Tourbay understood as well, that India is not only a client base with quite huge potential, but quite big middle class, but it's also a very great source of engineering.
Yes.
And that's where we developed this technical center in Chennai. So going from 50 engineers for the Logan project to 300 engineers for the Quid project and 9,000 engineers in Chennai at the Renault Nissan Technical Center.
Tell me a little bit more about this engineering center, Global Engineering Center. How and why did this number grow from 50 to say 1,000, say 9,000 or so? And this has been happening with many global companies. So just wanted to understand your perspective and how this story unfolded for Renault, 50 to 9,000.
Okay, so then I would have to speak about the second leg of our perception of India and the benefit of India for the Renault Group and Renault and Nissan Group, which is sourcing. Through the Logan project and through our joint Mahindra Renault purchasing team, we could understand how inexpensive the market was and the sourcing base from India, and most probably thanks to the efforts of Maruti over the last 30 years, and next then Hyundai, and also to the Tata Mahindra Group for their own auto and truck businesses. The market, this logistic chain was very inexpensive compared to what we had known in different parts of the world. And that's thanks to Ashwani Gupta, who had joined us as the deputy GM of purchasing. And then I could convince the Renault Group that we had opportunities in, say, 5 to 10 commodities to offer Indian suppliers as part of the global sourcing suppliers of the Renault Nissan Group. Say, an example is forging and machining. It could be also some smaller sheet metal. It could be kind of axle forgings, etc., where you had cost reduction in the range of 30-35% compared to what we had known from even from Romania, with a significant cost breakthrough compared to Romania, which was the cheapest country in Europe at the time. And therefore, we offered to the group to source from India a $300 million annual budget of equipment, and that development, that goes with development. I mean, you cannot develop, we cannot source technical parts like Conrads or axle parts unless you have local development. But from the Renault side, and we created a 50-50 joint venture with Nissan to make this technical center in Chennai. And we got the building thanks to Mahindra Group. So it was a full loop of connecting the things which are important from India, say engineering and sourcing, and partnerships with the Mahindra Group. So that's I think the 2 points where I would say when I took the job, nobody in the global development team at Renault had imagined that we could as develop as fast the global sourcing and as fast global engineering. And thanks to the next people behind me, it has grown to 8,000 or 9,000 people.
Excellent, excellent.
And Gerard de Tourbay could develop the quid 100% from India, and manufacturing it from India as well in the Chennai plant.
So now we come to the present day situation in India, and if we look into the future now, next 10 years, there are such rapid changes happening, mainly on the technology front. Uh, how do you look at India and Indian automotive sector evolving in the next 10 years?
Okay, so then let me take my crystal ball and tell you, you'll be electric within next 10 years. You'll be electric at 50% of the business. Frankly, I don't know. Just I have from my experience in the last 2 years as a consultant to the French and European and Indian auto industry, I would say there will be lots of sweat and tears to transition, and there will be lots of sweat and tears in all the continents in the auto industry on the transition. Now, in India, we've already mentioned that Maruti is a global leader, 50% market share. Mr. Bhargava, the chairman of the group, a few days ago, he announced that he would make a single EV manufacturing plant with a huge investment in Gujarat.
Yeah, $1 billion.
Yeah. And he had signed an agreement with Toyota 3 years ago on accessing the new technologies that Toyota has developed, which mainly the hybrid, plug-in hybrids, and now battery electric vehicles that Toyota is going to develop. So most probably he has a view that of course it's not going to be easy, it's not going to be for everybody, it's not going to be maybe it's not going to be mass market, but still there will be a huge potential for battery electric vehicles or maybe plug-in hybrids in India. In India you have a second chance, which is that you have a huge two-wheeler park. Probably 100 million two-wheelers are running throughout India. And on electric mobility on two-wheelers, there's an opportunity which is battery swapping, and there is a much less economical gap between IC and battery electric vehicles. Like China has already transitioned on the electric two-wheelers, and I know from studies made by EY in India that already there is a cost benefit if you have a fleet of two-wheelers for, say, pizza delivery. It would cost less to you on 2 or 3 years to have electric vehicles, electric two-wheelers compared to IC vehicles. And then there's a challenge on the light commercial vehicles, from light commercial to the heavy trucks. Today, they are light commercial and truck can be an opportunity for the hydrogen as a fuel. And the question mark then will be how India is going to manufacture the number of tons of hydrogen that will be needed by the truck mobilities. It will be interesting. Probably it will take a bit longer than 2030, but India has decided to become a carbon-free country by 2070. So, as my Japanese friends say, "Gambate kudasai." Lots of good work and enjoy the transition in India.
Okay. Sylvain, you talked about the French industries making strides into the new mobility areas, and now we also talked about Indian market opening up. Now, it is said quite often that yes, there are many issues for starting the vehicle industry. There is the issue or challenge about the demand, but the experts say that the bigger challenge is about the supply chain and the supply chain industry for the new mobility, be it electric vehicles or hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. The supply chain, developing a robust supply chain, having it locally, is one of the biggest challenges, and it's going to be a big challenge for the next 5 6 years, 10 years to open up in India, whereas such technology is being very well developed in France, in Europe. So, how do you see the opportunities of synergies and collaborations and working together? What kind of opportunities are there for French or European companies in India, and what can India gain from France or from Europe in the new mobility area?
Okay, so let's take an example of what has been done by a French group, uh, Valeo, let's name it. Um, in the, I said 10 years ago, they were very demanding on information on how India would develop and how India would become an electric mobility place. And I've helped them understanding how the market was and how the clients would purchase their vehicle and what would be the kind of price band where they and the constraint that they had compared to what we know in Europe. And I think it's a very interesting way of uh, see how India is. We can use the strengths of India with the strengths of the European groups. They have finally, to make it short, they decided to go for understanding that India is not going to allow huge battery development, huge charging points. Electricity was already a scarce product. And of course, anything which had no short-term return for the client was not a market. They decided to go for the 48 volts hybrid systems. And they have used their strengths in India and Indian strengths, which are engineering and low-cost manufacturing, for developing all the 48 volts alternators and electric motors. And they have done all the product development in India to make sure that they would come at the price point where it makes sense for a client to buy 48 volt. And then they've also understood that unless you have Maruti as a client, you're not going to be a volume maker in India. And having added all these strengths of India together, they have developed for Maruti and then for other brands in the world, their 48 volts hybrid, which gives, say, 8 to 12% fuel economy improvement for the vehicles, for IC vehicles, at a cost which is affordable for the clients and which makes a return over, say, 2-3 years, you have a return on the vehicles. And Maruti now is selling Suzuki, on the Suzuki brand, they are selling all their hybrids over the world with this 48 volt system. So this is a good example because it gives it uses all the strengths of India, plus of course the strengths of a major tier one supplier in Europe with a global base, into making a new product which improves the mobility and the fuel economy on the vehicles. So I would say, hopefully, I hope that there will be similar projects from the big battery makers and the big electric motors, or the hardware industry for electric battery vehicle. And then I would say for the for the vehicles, for LCVs, maybe last mile mobility, as hydrogen has become important on the development in Western Europe, and then there will be at this moment there's no mass production of anything, but it has to be done, and hopefully the manufacturing and sourcing base in India is going to be strong enough to take a lead on the fuel cell and all the charging electrolyzers, and it could be an opportunity also of cooperation between the European players. As cost has to be reduced, then India can be a major player on that, because you have in India all the tricks to reduce the cost in manufacturing and in product development.
Silva, it has been great talking to you on this wide-ranging subjects, and the stories coming from the wealth of experience you've had in France, in Japan, and most importantly for me in India. So thank you very much once again for being with us, having this chat, and sharing with us.
Well, thanks to you, Sudhir. It was a pleasure on my side, and I think you've interesting years coming ahead, and there will be opportunities still to cooperate with Europe and maybe other parts of the world. Industry is going to be transforming itself in something maybe more reliant, more, of course, cleaner, and finally achieve this zero carbon state where we will be driving whatever energy, but clean energy vehicles. So thanks to your channel, and hope to talk to you again in the future.